Thanks for joining us to Road to the Winner's Circle, and we're going to take you through Derby 143. We have great interviews from trainers. We're going to tell you what we think about the horses. Joining me today is Mike Gandolfo and Brian the Insider. Brian Dugan is his real name, and we're going to take you through the horses that are involved in the Kentucky Derby. Hi, I'm Kimberly Greenwell, and you're watching Road to the Winner's Circle, and I'm with Mike Gandolfo and Brian Dugan. And we were lucky enough yesterday to go to the post position draw. Now the field is set, and we're ready to go for the first running of the 143rd Kentucky Derby.
Oh, I've got goosebumps.
It was quite a thrill being at the post position draw yesterday. First time, definitely a bucket list kind of thing. And it was kind of interesting because I don't think there was any really big losers yesterday. Maybe Irish Warcock coming out of the 17 hole. Brian, we never had a winner coming out of 17.
No, and I think, like we've talked about, Mike, I think that's kind of coincidental. I mean, we've had a lot of horses in the auxiliary gate have won, so, but that is a little taboo. You don't want the 17.
One horse, though, that probably did get snake bit a little bit, a horse that we love coming out of the UAE Derby, Thunder Snow coming out of the 2 hole.
Yeah, that's you don't want to be too close to the rail. I know that was what Bob Baffert always hated to do, is get on the rail, because with 20 horses, you could end up in the infield real quick. And so I think he'll be all right, but he's going to have to get out of the gate quickly.
You know, one of the interesting things about the post position draw is usually that changes the favorite, but in this case, it didn't happen. Classic Empire is exactly where he wants to be.
I think a lot of horses are exactly where they want to be. Classic Empire being in that 14 post is going to have a little gap between him on the outside to the second gate, so he's going to have some free space to clear. A horse that we love, Gunnevera, is breaking out of the 10. Antonio Sano told us all he wanted to do is between 5 and 12 and he'd be happy. We got IRAP breaking out of the 9, probably exactly where they want to be. I think the big winner, though, is Always Dreaming. I think Always Dreaming, with the early speed that he wants to come out, wants to be in the top 3 early on, coming out of the 5 hole is a really good spot. And to me, really, it's going to come down to what's that first quarter time. If it's 23 seconds, right around 23 seconds, Gunnevera is going to have a shot. If it's 23 and a half or whatever else, it's going to be more of a stalker space.
You know, one of the things that we've talked about over and over on our podcast, if you listen to it, which is Road to the Winner's Circle, is that since they've started the point system, we do not have a fast-paced Derby anymore, and that really has changed who the winner is, and those horses that like to close, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them.
Kimberly, you're 100% right. We used to have, with the old graded stakes, earnings is how you got into the Derby. We'd have a lot of speed horses, and that would set up for the traditional Derby that we all love, and that's a closer coming from deep in the field, and hopefully at a big price. So we've seen a lot of Derbies won with favorites recently on the front end.
I kind of liken it to the Daytona 500 when they put restrictor plates on the horses. Or not on the horses, but on the cars. They got horsepower.
They have horsepower.
So, but yeah, you take the restrictor plates on the cars and you kind of take the early speed out, and you kind of bunch everybody up together. I think that's kind of what the point system has done to the Derby.
So who are our speed horses in this race?
I think, Mike, you mentioned Battle of Midway.
Battle of Midway is going to break out of the 11, and it's going to be Gunnevera is going to let him go. I mean, so he's not going to try to run with him at all. Sonneteer too.
Sonneteer, Always Dreaming. I think he's going to be on the front. Fast and Accurate. Yes, he's going to want to get out there very quickly.
So that's who's going to set that early pace. Although the numbers will suggest that early pace will still not be a blistering pace. It won't be like when Orb won and we had these 22.7 fractions or whatever it was when Orb ran.
But as we know, as speaking with the jocks after the Derby, when the gates break, all their plans a lot of times go right out the window, depending on what happens from the break. The break is the key.
Well, and what you're doing is you're asking a horse to run a distance it's never ran before, in front of a crowd the size that it will never run in front of again, and be in a field the size it will never be in again. I mean, this is such a unique race because this is a one and only. You're going to do it one time. 20 horses. Mile and a quarter. They'll run a mile and a quarter again, but 20 horses in front of 170,000 people, it's not going to happen ever again.
And a lot of them will never run a mile and a quarter again. I mean, that's a long way for a race. The preps got longer as they went. The last round of preps were a mile and an eighth. But, a lot of these horses are not really bred to go that far, and that's when you find out deep in the stretch at Churchill who's got the staying power to win.
Well, and you have horses that haven't ran for a while, like Classic Empire. I mean, he just ran for the first time 4 weeks ago,
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, yeah.
You know, and he is our favorite again, but it was favorite early on, the most winningest horse on the field with over $2 million in purse winnings. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the race.
Yep.
Well, Classic Empire came off a long layoff until the Arkansas Derby. 3 weeks ago now, he won the Arkansas Derby. Another horse to watch in that Arkansas Derby, he snuck in the field a little bit. Looking at Lee at that one hole, if you watch the Arkansas Derby, he was fighting for points at the end. It was all over the place. If he's fighting for position out of that one hole, the way that horse is kind of bull in a china shop, he could wipe out half the field.
Yeah. The Cassie Barnes got 2 entries, Classic Empire and State of Honor, who I like too. I think he's a very good horse. You know, he hadn't won a lot, but he's filled the exactas and trifectas in a lot of races. And I know the Cassie Barnes very high on State of Honor too.
What was Cassie saying about State of Honor? I mean, he was very high on him, and he was like, you know, don't discount this horse.
We had Norm Cassie on a radio show, 1450, and he was really, he said he's very confident he's going to bring 2 horses to the starting gate and both could win. And that's high praise coming from the Cassie Barnes.
And I think the big thing to remember is that this is a year where most of these horses have a flaw. And Classic Empire had some nagging injuries that it had to fight and had that layoff, and now it's got the short turnaround. IRAP is a horse that a lot of people like that won the Bluegrass Stakes, but he not only ran 4 weeks ago, but then 3 weeks before that. And so, you know, you're getting these like just tight turnaround times for these horses. You know, McCracken had this long layoff and really has not fired well as a 3-year-old except for the Sam Davis. So it's really wide open. That's why you're seeing great odds right now.
Thunder Snow, who had to come from out of the country
Yes.
and is quarantined for a day and a half here.
Right.
I mean, that affects the horse too.
He looks great on the track. We've seen Thunder Snow out here, and everybody likes what they're seeing. He was glad to get out of quarantine, but you know, everybody keeps saying that this is probably the most wide open Derby that we've seen in many years because so many different things have happened. Classic Empire got hurt, was out for a while, so this is definitely a kind of Derby that could be an old style Derby, especially if we get some rain.
I'm going to ask you about McCracken though, Brian. McCracken's coming in as the co-second choice right now at the morning line with Always Dreaming, another horse we need to talk about real quick.
I like him. He's a dual qualifier, meaning he ran good as a 2-year-old, and he also has the breeding to get the 1.25 miles. So McCracken's a very dangerous horse in this race and has been very successful.
Yeah, I mean, McCracken's big thing to me is that he's been successful at Churchill, and that's a huge thing here. Although recent history makes me a little leery about going to McCracken, and there's a couple horses I don't understand why he's ahead of as far as the odds go. But he is tied right now with Always Dreaming. Next segment, we've got some great audio with Todd Pletcher. We're going to talk a little bit more about Pletcher's horses. That's Always Dreaming's trainer.
We'll be back with more Road to the Winner's Circle in just a moment.
Road to the Winner's Circle is brought to you by Bear Nose Pizza. Yeah, it's that good.
Yeah, it's that good. Bear Nose Pizza. Good taste, happy face, your place, my place. What's gonna make you happy? It's the smile I see on your face. It's that good. Yes, it is, and we deliver it. Oh, oh, oh. Taste is fun. Yes, it is. We guarantee it. Yeah, it's that good. Bear Nose Pizza. Yeah, it's that good.
Being charged with a crime is serious business and requires sound legal advice. Whether you live in Kentucky or Indiana, call my office by dialing 84-GET-LEMMY and let me help.
Call 84-GET-LEMMY